You would feel uncomfortable? Why would you feel uncomfortable?
If you were lurking around me in a men's urinal, damn right I'd feel uncomfortable.
Lurking? Who's lurking?
What's a urinal? What is going on here? What do you do? Characters up on the screen. I'm like, oh god. This is going to be nightmare fuel, isn't it? Well, we'll see. Shout out to Pendulous Dragon. That's a much better Chiron, though. Emma Smokes P.Morgan. New strain. Hopefully it's amazing.
Yes, 100%.
If you're wondering why I skipped the beginning, it was just Piers Morgan talking to Glenn Beck for 15 minutes, and I think we can all do without that in our lives, right?
And I think a lot of it has to do with the rhetoric that's been surrounding Trump, and I think this collective realization that we no longer have to be fearful of supporting this.
I'm gonna do 1, 2, 5 until it's the two of them, or it's some Emma highlights.
And we can actually be excited about his second term. You know, prior to the 2024 election, he's been called a fascist, a dictator on day one, an authoritarian. He's been likened to Hitler, and I think that created an environment where
the dictator on day one was his own words. He said that was Trump. Trump said that.
a lot of people felt like they had to sort of speak in hushed tones about their support of Donald Trump. Some of the exit polling on election day found that young men in particular were more likely than any other demographic to sort of hide or lie about who they were supporting for president. And now that we've gone through this election cycle, the veil is lifted a little bit. People are coming out and they're dancing. They're talking about what this future could look like over the next 4 years. And I don't think they feel as afraid to speak up about these things. Even the media is going and speaking to Donald Trump. And these are publications that would have recently referred to him as Hitler or a fascist. So I think the tables are turning a little bit.
Well, they're even heading down there to kiss the ring, which I never thought I'd see from some of the MSNBC anchors. I mean, Luke Beasley, are you joining in the dancing? Are you secretly bopping away there to Young Man by Village People?
Absolutely not. I think
you've got to laugh at that. I mean, before I let you go, before you start, you have to laugh at the irony that the guy that everyone on the left calls the biggest bigot in America chose the #1 gay anthem as the one he would dance to on stage. I mean, come on, it's funny.
Heartwarming. So here's what I wish some of you would engage with, which I haven't heard. After Biden won, the MAGA side at large, Trump himself, didn't accept it. I haven't heard you, Piers, say, wow, it's so impressive that whenever our side loses, even though a lot of MAGA folks are saying, if the left loses, they're never going to accept it, they're going to riot this time, it's going to be crazy. We actually accepted it.
Well, not only have I said that, hang on, Luke, hang on. Not only have I said that, I also said,
come on, hang on, like 2 seconds.
You challenged me. I'm going to respond to that one point, which is actually, I said to Trump's face, I thought it was disgraceful he didn't accept the election result. All right? And I did say that the Democrats deserve credit for the peaceful transfer. So you're completely wrong about that.
No, that during better Piers times you did do that, but I'm talking about just
better Piers
a general
times.
understanding.
You mean when you agreed with me?
I wish the MAGA side would do introspection and go, wow, it's not that the left is going, oh, we just love Trump now. It's that we're demonstrating to you what acting like an adult looks like and not lying about the election, not crying for years and years about it, and instead going, even though we still believe Trump has these fascistic tendencies, I still believe he's a threat to our democracy. I'm going to show you what caring about democracy looks like. That's what Biden has done.
Let me respond.
That's what Kamala Harris has done.
Let me respond.
Go for it.
When you say you're not crying about it, you might not be. But all I've seen in the last 2 weeks are people, women in particular, all over TikTok.
This is of incredible substance, I know, for people to be like, you're the crybabies. It is you who is the crybabies. It is you who is the crybabies.
On that, so just for what it's worth, I agree with you. Let me bring in Emma, because I want to play a clip. This is of this big Nancy Mace row. She's obviously introduced a bill to bar transgender women from facilities on Capitol Hill. This is a week after the Republican-elect Sarah McBride made history by becoming the first openly transgender person elected to Congress. Let's take a look at the Nancy Mace explanation as to why she's doing this.
This effort in response to Congresswoman McBride's coming to Congress?
Yes, and absolutely, and then some. I'm not going to stand for a man, if someone with a penis is in the women's locker room, that's not okay. And I'm a victim of abuse myself. I'm a rape survivor. I have PTSD from the abuse I've suffered at the hands of a man. And I know how vulnerable women and girls are in private spaces. So I'm absolutely 100% going to stand in the way of any man who wants to be in a women's restroom, in our locker rooms, in our changing rooms. I will be there fighting you every step of the way.
Now, Emma, Sarah McBride replied by saying this is a blatant attempt from far right-wing extremists to distract from the fact they have no real solutions to what Americans are facing. To which I say, well, I'm not even vaguely right, and I think it's wrong that biological men who've become trans women should be in women's spaces.
You're not vaguely right, Piers?
No, I'm
I just
actually.
listened to a
I
segment
would say I'm in
where
the centre.
you agreed with
No,
Glenn Beck.
No, I would say that.
First
Yeah,
right comment.
Why are you ashamed of it? What the fuck? Whatever happened to people being proud of who they are? Now it's just basically like, oh, well, you know, I'm mysterious. I can do anything. Center, up, left, right, twisted, downward, turnward, screw loosed.
Dictators in the country
No,
repeatedly.
but rather
apparently
like,
something's happening
hang on,
the
hang
left
on, I haven't
because
finished
Bill
yet.
Maher
I
and
haven't
someone
finished
you
yet.
saw on TikTok
I haven't finished yet. Let me ask you a
is
question.
being hysterical. Go ahead.
Let me ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
I do not identify, and I know you believe a lot in self-identity. I do not identify as conservative.
I don't know what that means.
I'm like Bill Maher. I'm just completely bemused by the woke left and how nuts you've all got, right? And I think this
Bill
election.
Maher's an old,
hang on, let me
rich
finish.
libertarian
I
who's
haven't asked you
bitter
a
at the
question
world.
yet.
I mean,
Let me ask you a question.
sure.
Right? Here's my question.
And like most old rich libertarians, his civil rights extends to how can I get that weed? Oh wait, are you the party that's going to take the weed away? Oh, okay, well then I don't agree with you. Are you the party that's going to legalize the weed? Then I agree with you. That's about the extent of my political philosophy.
If I, as a
I smoke the theory.
man who identifies as a liberal, if I can see why it's so wrong for biological men who have now become trans women to be in women's spaces, to be in women's sport, to be everywhere in women's lives where they historically were not biological men supposed to be, why are you not as exercised by this as a woman? I don't get it.
Why?
You're all about women's
why am
rights.
First of all,
That's such a weird thing to say, by the way. You know, you should care about this. You know, as a woman, I'm going to tell you what to do and tell you that there are very dangerous men who want to control you and tell you what to do. So you should care about this, I say.
absolutely. I host a sports podcast. I care deeply about sports, and I believe that anybody that identifies as a woman should be able to participate in the sport as long as it abides by the particular bylines or guidelines.
You know it's wrong. You know it's unfair.
Said sports league, but actually, we're talking here about Nancy Mace, who loves a camera in her face and loves attention wherever she can get it. You know, I find it pretty disgusting that she is basically implying that this trans lawmaker, just by being in her presence in the bathroom, may rape her. I do choose to speak up for women's rights. I believe that I do so on my program, The Majority Report, regularly. And I'm disgusted that Nancy Mace has decided essentially to support Donald Trump wholeheartedly, who has been found liable of sexual abuse in court, and multiple of his cabinet appointments, picks, including Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz, have been credibly accused of sexual assault themselves. So apparently it's triggering for her because
Well, when you
someone's
say credibly
genitalia may be slightly
accused,
different
all
in the
of them,
stall
when
next
you say
By the way, do you notice how quick he is to just like, you know, get triggered and melt down the second anyone speaks and he's like, don't interrupt me, oh my God. But then like does that every 2 seconds on every one of his guests. I mean, it is his show. He just really likes censoring people.
credibly accused.
Well, but it doesn't
last two
matter
names
to
you
her
mentioned
that
have-
Trump
the
has
last
been
two-
found
Okay, you
liable
can't
of
just keep
sexual
talking.
assault in
All right.
court. Piers.
Time out.
Piers.
Time out.
Has Trump been found
Time-
liable of sexual
Time
assault
out.
in court with
Trump
Eugene
was
Carroll?
found guilty in a civil action. He denied it, as you know.
Found
and in case of
liable, exactly.
and the case of
Okay.
Gates and Pete Hegseth,
So the preponderance
they
of
have
evidence went
you
in
can't
her
just keep
direction.
talking.
And she's been
I was doing a bit. He's starting to sound like the character more. You gotta keep talking! Ah, it's my show!
All right,
and
keep talking.
he has been accused
Let
by
me know when you
dozens of
finish.
women.
Let
There
me
you
know
go.
when are you finished?
I'm done.
Okay.
I'm done.
When we have a
there
debate,
you go.
the customary for the host leads it, and you respond to questions. Okay, if I may be so bold. The point is that Hesketh and Gates have categorically denied any wrongdoing, and none has been proven against them. In Trump's case, it was a civil action, as you know, not a criminal action. The criminal case against him was shuffling paperwork over an alleged one-night stand with a porn star. So it's not quite how you categorized it. Deborah Lee, let me bring you in
Has
here.
this trans lawmaker been accused of rape? Has this trans lawmaker
No,
who
but
she's
actually,
barring
if
from
you
the
are a
bathroom been accused of
congresswoman,
rape?
if you're a congresswoman who survived sexual assault, you should be entitled to feel safe in the
So
restroom.
the presence of a trans woman in the bathroom. Oh gosh, you know, here in New York, there are a lot of multi-gender bathrooms, and I've gone to the bathroom next to a man. Oh my goodness, it was so fearful. What was
I would
going to
actually
do
be quite
with the rest
fearful
of
if
my
you.
life? I mean,
if I
this
found
is,
you
this is
lurking next to me
ridiculous.
in a men's restroom, I'd feel fearful. Deborah Lee.
What a profoundly weird thing to say. Also, if you cared about this issue, and anyone on the right, including P.Morgan, even though he doesn't want to identify as a right-winger, he likes to be a deliciously, perfectly centered centrist in all gooey ways, then if you cared about the issue, you would talk about the fact that the majority of people who commit sexual assault in bathrooms towards women are cis men, heterosexual men. Heterosexual men are, like, if you want to talk about this issue and be like, hey, I deeply care about the safety of women, I deeply care about women getting sexually assaulted, I deeply care about preventing the sexual assault of women, then why are you trying to distract everyone with the category or group that doesn't commit the majority of those sexual assaults, that are more often the victim of those sexual assaults? It's always the same song and dance. I would be fearful if you were using the bathroom beside me.
Hey, let me bring you in here. I just think
that is a ridiculous accusation, Piers.
I didn't make an accusation. It was a statement of fact. I would feel fearful.
You would feel uncomfortable? Why would you feel uncomfortable?
If you were lurking around me in a men's urinal, damn right I'd feel uncomfortable.
Lurking? Who's lurking?
What's a urinal? What is going on here? What do you do? Fuck?
Well, what else would you be doing
is
there?
Is this lawmaker lurking?
What else would you be doing there?
Going to the restroom.
I don't want you going to my restroom. Stick in your own restroom. For my safety.
What is up with the right and being obsessed with fucking bathrooms? Just leave people the fuck alone. This is none of your business. This is not something that anyone should be concerning themselves with. This is not a debate that was being had fucking 25 years ago where people were just like, we need to police bathrooms and also police people's genitals. I'm going to take this as a serious point of contention. I want to know what genitals you have when you walk into a bathroom. Why? I ask. Why? Even if I've been inside a bathroom, a public washroom that has someone who is perhaps not the gender they were supposed to be in there, I'm not spending any part of my day being like, I should investigate this. I should find out what's going on. Aren't you trying to get in and out? No fucking about. Like, you get inside, do your business, and leave? Why the fuck do you care about what the strangers are doing? Like, honestly, where does the line get drawn? It's like, well, the sounds coming from one of the urinals was quite strange. I'm just kind of curious. Were they having trouble, achieving their release of their waste? And you care. What is this of your business? Why not just let people go to the bathroom?
Never mind yours.
Okay, but would a man be lurking? Would a biological man, is he lurking next to you?
That's the whole point.
Why is there something inherently perverted about?
I'm gonna be honest. This is just misandry. This is man-hating. Why do you think that men inherently are just lurking around bathrooms trying to watch people poo? What is this? Is it a kink? Are you working through something? Because honestly, it's shameful. No, the majority of men are not going in bathrooms to watch other people piss or shit. I mean, again, just let people use the bathrooms.
Going to the bathroom. You right-wingers, and yes, I'm including you in this with this classical liberal BS, are so bad faith. It's incredible. You are linking sexual abuse and sexual assault to trans people inherently, and that is a bigoted statement.
I want trans people to have, I want them to have fairness and equality like the rest of us, just not where the roads will.
Except they can't use a bathroom. No. I think they should be equal. I think they should be treated like human beings. I just don't think they should be allowed to piss or shit where I determine. I think I should be able to dictate where they piss and shit. But they're equal humans, just ones in which they cannot, do whatever they need to do based on my categorization of that. And I need to be able to control that aspect of society. I can't think of a sicker thing to want to fixate yourself on and a weirder hill to die on. I really hope in 40 years people look back on this with absolute revulsion that it deserves to be like, why did you care so much about what someone's genitals were as they were about to go piss or shit somewhere? Why do you care about a stranger pissing or shitting at all? Period. End. End of sentence.
Women's rights. But Deborah Lee, you've been listening to this patiently.
But separate but
right,
equal.
Emma,
separate but equal.
We're four
right,
people on the panel.
I would like to respond to this.
Deborah, your response.
Hey.
As somebody who grew up as an athlete, I would have been terrified if there was a man in my sports, in my leagues, playing against me. My own brother, who's 2 years older than me, anytime we would play basketball against each other, he would knock me down. And you say that you speak up for women's rights, but have you heard about the case in Virginia where a man put on a skirt, even though he went with male pronouns, and went into the bathroom and sexually assaulted a 15-year-old girl, and now the parents are suing the school because they tried covering it up. You want to protect women? We're not saying that every single trans person has violent tendencies, but it's opening this up that any single person, if there's no checks on this, any man can put on a skirt
Every year, how many human beings in America die from vending machines? How many are crushed? How many die? What's the cause of death from vending machines? Approximately 1 to 3. 1 to 3 people will die in the United States in any given year being crushed by a vending machine. Now, what's the amount of people who die from other causes? Is it higher than that? Dramatically higher than that? The answer would be yes. Heart attacks, cancer, being hit by cars. There's a lot of other ways to die in the United States. So, should we primarily concern ourselves with the causes of death that actually affect a large percentage of the population, or should we start a campaign? Should we dedicate resources? Should we use all of our time on television, media, to talk about an issue that, again, usually hurts and or kills between 0 to 1 people a year? Wouldn't it be ridiculous if we spent all of our resources that could be used towards, I don't know, doctors, medical attention for people who need it, for people who have strokes, heart attacks, all that kind of stuff. We diverted all of that to, again, tackling this very serious problem of people who get crushed by vending machines, the 0 to 1 per year. Because we need to prevent that 0 to 1 per year, like a crush by a vending machine. It's now really serious. We need to talk about it and get mad about it and get concerned about it. These fucking vending machines are killing people. Wouldn't that be ridiculous? Wouldn't you be like, well, why would we hyperfixate on something that barely ever happens? That's what we're doing right now in this discussion. The exact same thing. Are there cases in which trans women have sexually assaulted people in a bathroom? Yes, there are cases in which that's happened. Is that the majority of cases? No. Are trans women more often the victims of sexual assault? Yes. Are the perpetrators of sexual assault in bathrooms overwhelmingly heterosexual, cis men, biological males, as you like to call them? They are. So if this is a thing that you care about, if you want to make bathrooms safer, if you don't want people to get sexually assaulted in bathrooms, you should focus on the people who sexually assault others in bathrooms. End of story. The rest of it is just low-coded to no-coded bigotry. That's what this is. Again, why would you waste your day on getting all mad and riled up? And actually, this is a cause that's deeply important to me. Vending machine crushing. 0 to 1 people per year in America die being crushed to death by a vending machine. Like, everyone would laugh you out of the room. You'd just be thinking, okay, but why, what? I mean, that's sad. It's unfortunate that a person died or not. Sometimes 50% maybe, one person, okay, fine. Tragic, yeah. I hope that stops happening to the one person per year, I guess. Otherwise, why is this your cause? Why is this worth attention? TV, interviews, policies, lawmakers. Is there nothing else that could improve society potentially?
Say, I'm a woman and go into the bathroom, and it's paving the way to make it easier for predators to attack women. And I don't know why you're so offended that women want to be able to use the bathroom without men in their presence. That is something that is totally normal and fair to ask.
I just find it amazing. Honestly, I find it amazing that on the left,
Pierce, stop interrupting. People are trying to speak.
Talk about abortion. All hell breaks loose. Women should be protected. Women must feel safe. Women must have rights. Women should have autonomy over their bodies. And yet, when it comes to sport, you're quite happy for biological males, or let's put it this way.
You know what?
Put it this way. But hang on. You've got to let me finish a question.
I think it's a little different.
You've got to
than
let me finish a question.
Out in parking lots because they can't
Sorry,
get their health care.
Emma, you really are not familiar with how these things work.
No, Piers.
You have to let me ask.
That's not an argument, Pierce. You're just name calling. You haven't provided a retort based in fact. You can start looking these things up, though. It might be interesting to you. Did you know? A good litmus test for how informed you are about trans athletes is whether or not you previously knew that no sports governing body has ever produced a study of actual trans bodies to justify banning trans women from sports. The same sport governing bodies have never produced a study that includes any differences of sexual development bodies before banning differences of sexual development women from women's sports. In both cases, officials cited studies that compared cis men and cis women's athletic abilities, no trans or differences of sexual development data at all, and deemed both trans women and differences of sexual development in women to be the same as men and laid down a ban. A few years ago, I promised a compromise on sports that suggested that we allow trans women to play while doing 5 years of intensive study of trans athletes. I said that if, at the end of 5 years, the science showed that trans women had an overwhelming advantage, I'd agree to restrictions. Not a single anti-trans activist would agree to this compromise. Instead, pushing for the immediate full ban we see today, despite a significant lack of actual evidence to back up their arguments. Now, I also saw, J.K. Rowling being like, oh, but why hasn't a trans-identified man ever win at a male sport? She meant to say trans men. She doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about. But as a trans man, for example, ever beat a cis man or a biological male at a sport? Yeah, that also happens, by the way. A trans male boxer, Patricio Manuel, picks up third straight victory to continue his unbeaten record 11 years after competing in the women's U.S. Olympic trials. Manuel was a five-time national amateur women's champion pre-transitioning. Since identifying as a male, Manuel has a professional boxing record of 3-0. Professional, by the way, sanctioned, licensed. And I don't see anyone freaking out about that, by the way. I don't see the P.Morgans of the world. I don't see everyone being like, well, this is an unfair advantage to men. What is? That biological females are playing in male sports. In this case, a biological female has successfully transitioned to become a trans man, and at that point is beating men. Is just beating men 3-0. 3 men have lost. It's not fair. It's not fair that she do that. Wait, I can't say that, right? That makes me feel weak and or gay, or appear weak and or gay. Oh shit. I mean, we have to keep talking about trans women in sports. Only trans women. Yes, trans women are the problem. Just trans women in sports. It's not fair. Not fair, I say.
Should Yao Ming have been banned from the NBA because he's too tall? I mean, we've got to make this be fair in competition.
I tell you what's not fair.
He towered over these
when
other
you have
players.
when you have a boxer.
I'll tell you, you didn't answer the questions. Again, you keep doing that thing where you're like, well, oof, I got no actual rational response to this. But I will tell you something. I got a really scary example coming up right now. What if Shaquille O'Neal had to box a woman in a ring? Would you allow for that?
In the Women's Olympics, boxing, winning a gold medal, who has male chromosomes and who beat up one of his opponents.
Okay, based on a Russian.
Oh shit, you're still doing that? I thought at this point you all accepted how deeply embarrassing this was and stepped away from that whole. But oh no, Pierce, by the way, not a right winger, is apparently still on this topic. So good job. We're getting back to the Amani Khalif story.
Beat up one of his opponents, her opponents, whatever you want to call this boxer.
Wait, are you misgendering a cis woman intentionally? Why, Pierce? I mean, this is also deeply confusing, isn't it? Now it's gotten to the point where it's just like, all right, so we have someone who is a cis woman, as Pierce likes to say, a biological female, and she has won a boxing match, and it has been completely discredited that there was, again, a Russian institution that is now not recognized internationally as one that has credible results in terms of their ability to assess whether or not a boxer should be able to perform, who said that they had detected that she, in fact, didn't have the proper chromosomes, produced zero evidence to that effect. Did you see when they showed up this year at the Olympics trying to be like, all right, so we're going to have to hold a conference to explain why we had our findings? The whole thing was a disaster. They had one of their people on like a Zoom call. The few press that showed up to laugh at them asked them questions. Can you please provide us with the scientific data or evidence that you have to claim that this individual happens to either have differences of sexual development, also known as intersex people, or that they have a different chromosome arrangement that you are claiming that they have? Because as of right now, there is, again, zero scientific evidence to demonstrate that. And even if there was, people who have differences of sexual development are different than trans people. These are different things. It's just, but J.K. Rowling's angry, and she's getting all upset about it.
What they determine.
Please stop talking when I'm talking. It's so boring for everyone watching. They can't hear us if you do that, right?
I mean, this is your whole shtick. I mean, you're having debates about the genocide in Gaza.
Am I going to have to mute you? Because honestly, everyone is sick of this now. Just please. Conduct.
Man, fuck. What a piss baby. He can't take any of his own medicine. As soon as someone's like, hey, by the way, Pierce, I think that all you're doing is resorting to name calling, and here's a factual statement. Are you capable of responding? Are you capable of answering it? You know what I think? I think in the Olympics, there was a man or a woman or a man-woman, whatever you want to call her, and you were interrupting me. I have things.
Conduct yourself properly in a debate, otherwise we get nowhere, right? Let me bring in Amala. You've been waiting patiently. What do you think of this?
Well, I mean, this is my show, so I get to skip past these parts I don't want to see. I want more Emma. She's doing great. This is fire.
Not as strong, not as powerful, do not have the endurance, of the trans women athletes because they have male physiology. How can that be right?
Absolutely.
900 medals.
So Piers.
Yes. Explain
how
to
about,
me.
First of all,
Why don't you
there's
care?
First of all, so
Why, Pierce, why are you interrupting? Why won't you let her speak? It's very rude. Profoundly boring, I might say, not allowing Emma to speak.
So why don't I care about that? One is the fact that this should be determined by those specific bodies. It's not at the top of my priority list. I
Some
care
are male,
about the fact that
some
the
are
majority
female.
of Americans
That's
are
why
running
we
paycheck to
separated in
paycheck,
the Olympics.
that women are bleeding out in parking lots, that trans youth are committing suicide at extremely high rates because of this exact kind of rhetoric, where you otherize
This
the
kind of
gender
rhetoric?
identity of their choice.
What, you mean
where
standing
if
up for
trans
women's
care was
rights?
available to all of these kids,
By the way, every misogynist in the world thinks suddenly that they're feminists. They got a shiny new toy to play with. It's neat, right? Like all the people who are like, I hate third wave feminism. I'm going to make a whole YouTube channel about how much I hate third wave feminism. I hate feminism. Feminism ruins everything. Feminism is a cancer. Feminism has destroyed society. And now all of a sudden they've all just flipped into TERFs because they got a shiny new thing to be like, hey, you know what? I just wanted to be outraged the whole time. I happen to be a feminist and I care a lot about feminist issues. I found a new way to be my kind of feminist, aka as a man, I want to control women's spaces. I want to make sure that I get the control over women's spaces. So I'm going to talk about how much I love sports now and how much I love women's sports. So I'm just going to talk about focusing on being sure that I get to say who or who cannot play inside the sports of women.
if trans care was available to these kids, they would develop in the exact same way where none of this would even matter. And so back to what was being said before about these assaults on other people, back to what was being said before about assaults on these people. I think they should be prosecuted, and definitely I'm completely against the idea that we should let someone slide just based on their identity if they assault somebody, which is why I'm sure everybody on this panel that is obsessed with this issue has been talking repeatedly over and over again about the rape in male prisons by male prisoners repeatedly against their same biological gender.
That's
in fact,
wrong too.
it happens.
Yes, it is.
Right. So how many?
But you know what you don't. You know what you never hear, Emma. You know what you never hear. You never hear. You never hear.
Not about this
Emma. You never hear about a trans man having an unfair advantage in male sport. Why is that?
No one's going to believe I didn't pre-watch this now. I couldn't have, technically, because it just came out. I think this got released like an hour. I did not pre-watch this. I haven't. No, I did not. Nope. I did not. Again, the right-wingers, I know he doesn't want to call himself one, pretty predictable. Kind of all just stay in their echo chambers, repeating the same points. He's not going to talk about Patricio, though, because that one is kind of, oh, shit, how do we talk about this? So wait, there's a professional boxer in licensed boxing who is a trans man who won multiple boxing matches, was undefeated up to a certain point, I believe. The latest fight now, it's 3-1. I think he lost one of his latest matches, but was undefeated at a certain point, 3-0. In fact, the Patricio's manager said that he was having trouble arranging fights for him because, again, there was all the insecurities that are coming from other people being like, well, if that's a biological female and I got beat by a girl, oh my God, my male insecurities are flaring up and all this other kind of shit. But yes, there are examples of trans men beating cis men in sports. Not all the time, but yeah, there's examples. There's examples of trans women beating cis women in sports. For a long time, this was an issue that no one really talked about, especially people who weren't actually really invested in, say, women's sports. But now it's become such a hot topic. But it's only when they win, and by they I mean trans people, that you see the right lose their shit. It's only when they win, and it's only when women win that they lose their shit. Because on some level, this goes deep down to the male insecurity, and it really fucking sucks. That again, all of these deeply insecure men, these men babies, this fucking, again, human sentient piece of cum that is P.Morgan, he's deeply insecure. He's an insecure man, and in his insecurity, he has to continuously assume that all men are going to just generally be better than all women at anything physical. Women can be better than men at nurturing, at cooking, at cleaning, at that kind of stuff. But when it comes to power, and when it comes to the domination of the world of sports, okay, that's something that men are always going to be better at. So there's just no examples. You can't provide me with any in which, I'm sorry, but a biological woman was capable of beating a man at a sport. And it's like, Well, for a long time, women weren't allowed to participate in the same way that men were allowed to. And even to this day, it's heavily underfunded when it comes to women in sports. There is a large problem of systemic abuse and sexual assault that happens to women at all levels. You know, there was that report that happened to women's soccer that showed at all levels of soccer, women, unfortunately, are the victims of sexual abuse once again by coaches, by other players, by a lot of other individuals. There's a big problem with this. And so, yeah, that does make it harder to climb the ranks. Professional sports for women do not pay the same that they pay for men. And there are categories where women are catching up. UFC and boxing happen to be two of them, where women are starting to not only dominate in those sports, but they're also starting to earn a lot of money that can be getting closer to being comparable to men. But for the large part, when it comes to all of this, women are at a historically decided disadvantage, that they're not given as much opportunity, and there's not as much institutional system set up to allow them to thrive in these. Could we start seeing more women dominate a lot of categories? Yes, we will. As we see more women dominating a lot of other categories, breaking records, etc., is there a point that maybe men can finally get past the deep insecurity they have to simply assume that they're going to be better at women in all categories and suddenly say, well, yeah, maybe we should allow there to be more co-ed sports. Maybe we should allow there, as long as both, you know, members are consenting, as long as they are both, you know, interested in participating in this, and also accept that there's going to start to be, as time goes on, if this starts to change more and more, categories that women are going to beat men at. I'm sorry, I don't believe that men are inherently smarter than women. So for like the sports that require no physical attributes, chess, for example, why is that something in which it's like, well, yeah, but men still dominate that? It's true, but do they dominate that particularly because men are just genetically more intelligent than women? Or because, again, this happens to be a game or sport in which there is a lot of obstacles that women have to get through to be able to dominate at? And hey, are there the vast majority of professional athletes when it comes to women capable of beating P.Morgan at anything? I would say yes. I would put money on that, honestly. If P.Morgan is like, well, yeah, but like, you know, I'm not going to be able to be beat by, you know, a biological female. It's like, I would say both cis women and trans men and trans women could most likely, if they are professionals at their particular sports, beat you in any category. It doesn't matter. Like, deeply embarrassing.
How come we never hear about that?
There are trans men that
ever,
because
you know why?
Amplify
You know why? Because they don't
it's
win.
A moral panic,
they don't
just
win
like it was
because
with
they
gay
have
people being
inferior
predators in
physiology.
School, just like it was about how seductive.
We don't hear about it because it's not an issue. Because they can't win.
No,
let me bring in Luke.
Because these are issues that are tittillating to white liberals or
tittillating.
White,
How weird you would say titillating.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah, what's ridiculous is that
for you it clearly is. You're not focusing on the more systemic rape issue in our prisons and in our
you haven't asked me about
our facilities
you
in this
haven't asked
country.
me about that.
But I just did. Why haven't you been talking about male rape and male
I think it's
prisons,
terrible.
Way
Shameful.
more likely to occur than a
Luke, jump in.
Then dedicate more segments to it. Dedicate more segments to it.
I'll take your advice on what segments we should be doing. We are the fastest growing YouTube channel in the world, so we're probably.
Is that true? I didn't know that. Wow, that's sad. What a damning condemnation on society at large. Also, why was he getting all weird and bothered at titillating? Did he take it personally? Is that why? Like, I don't understand why it was titillating. Well, what a weird word for you to use. Yes, just because I happen to be a tit, thinking of tits, obsessed with tit.
Getting it about right. Luke.
Okay, yeah. So I do think with all these things, even the Lake and Riley case as an example, we always want to be understand the gravity and the pain of the individual stories that we're talking about that connect to larger issues, but then also include the broader context, which is that with this bathroom issue, you don't see in the data increase in assaults with trans people in the bathroom they identify with, but you do see when they're forced to go into the bathroom they don't identify with or that's aligned with the biological sex they were born as, an increase in assaults on the trans person. So that's important to remember. And I don't think we need to merge every single issue because I think, as Emma referenced, but as a lot of people acknowledge, while we don't understand what the fixation is necessarily or why this is used to distract from all these other more consequential issues, I don't think most people have an issue with leagues, especially professional leagues, implementing restrictions to make sure things are fair. Sometimes that's have you transitioned enough where you don't have the edge or whatever it might be. It's fine for those leagues to make sure that it's fair. And I don't think that debate is actually going on like this program might make it out to be. I think we actually have a lot
we're going to move on to
understanding
another.
on it.
We're going to move on to something else. I mean, look, I just don't think there is any debate to be had about the sport issue. I totally agree.
But on the bathroom,
well,
one,
hang on.
hear what
I
said?
totally agree with Trump about the sport thing. Trans women athletes should not be allowed to compete against women. They should have their own category, or they should compete against a category most of them used to compete in, which is the men's category. But the reason they don't is they're making far more money and they're far more successful.
Why do you get to be the arbiter of any of this? I don't understand. Who the fuck are you? This is the way it should be. This is who you should be allowed to play games against. I get to dictate and say, like, what?
Competing against women because they have an unfair advantage. And that's what's wrong with it. Anyway, I want to move on to Jon Stewart talking about Mika.
Because it titillates him. That's true.
And Joe from obviously MSNBC who went down to kiss the Trump ring after calling him Hitler for a few years. Let's take a look. Madison Square Garden rally. Do you know how many protesters turned up when Hitler came to the middle of Manhattan, the great liberal democracy, in their iconic venue? 150 bothered to get off their lazy backsides from screaming Hitler and fascism for years to go and protest.
I was there too, Piers.
They couldn't be bothered because you know what? It's almost like they didn't believe what
at a Trump rally.
It's like they
Nazi
didn't believe
rally.
what they were saying, right? Emma, you wanted to agree with me, so I'll come to you.
So there you go. I do agree with you that I think it's pretty disingenuous and crazy that Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough went down there and kissed the ring, or as our producer on our show referred to it, Matt Leck, kiss the onion ring, which was pretty funny given Trump's proclivity for fast food. And it speaks to, yes, the hollowness of our corporate media in terms
Matt
of
Leck,
what they actually say and believe. The person who actually first really said the Hitler thing was Trump's former chief of staff, who worked closely with him. Also,
His vice
Trump's
president as
ex-wife
well.
Ivana, in their divorce proceedings, said that Trump had a book of Hitler's speeches on his bedside table, and other people have accused him of being authoritarian in the past. The problem is that, yes, our corporate media and even, frankly, many in the Democratic Party did not treat the threat that Trump poses with the respective urgency that it requires, and so it rang hollow.
Well, yeah, not to mention, it's like, they don't believe it, obviously. It's you don't get to, on one end, use terms like, the guy's a fascist, he's Hitler too. And I congratulated Hitler too, and I wished him well in his upcoming administration. I invited Hitler too to the Oval Office to shake his hand in front of a fire, to talk to Hitler too about what we can see and perhaps agree on into the coming days. I was like, I'm sorry, terms like Hitler, fascism, all this shit, it means nothing to the Democrats.
To voters. This is a problem with the messaging of the Democratic Party, but it says it does nothing to undercut the very real threat that Trump poses. He was twice impeached in this country, and the second time was for trying to overturn the democratic results of an election that resulted in a violent coup that killed multiple people. So when we talk about Donald Trump as a threat to this country, there doesn't need to be any theoretical conversation. We have very real evidence for it, and now he's learned all the wrong lessons, fast-tracking basically cronies into the administration. And yes, the media rolling over on its belly and accepting his extremist rhetoric is a big part of the problem. And in
Actually,
in the history of fascism,
you had me
corporations
for
capitulating to fascists.
All right, you had me for
is a big part of how fascists get to rise.
You had me for some of that, but
I'm
once you start talking about his extremist language and stuff, you're missing the point. The reason he won so big is that most Americans don't think he does have extremist views. They think a lot of it is just common sense.
Maybe you didn't tell them about it, Piers.
Luke?
That is a failure of the messaging of the Democratic Party. Unfortunately, Donald Trump has said he wants to mass deport millions of people.
You know the biggest mass deporter of modern times in American history?
He should mass deport.
Barack Obama.
I'm going now.
Barack Obama deported 3 million people.
Barack Obama.
Yeah,
me.
he's the big deporter.
Understood.
He's one of
I'm
you
not
lot.
a Democratic
So-
hack, Piers.
All right, Luke.
Piers, I'm not a Democratic
Please.
hack. I will
Emma,
criticize.
Clearly.
Joe
Thank
Biden
you.
has been helping commit genocide for a year and a half.
All right.
That's
Let me
that's
bring
something
Luke
you'll
in.
hear out of my mouth regularly.
Let me bring
I'm
Luke
not
in.
a
That's
not
hack.
true, but okay.
I call things like they
Okay,
are.
so I
I know.
just
A
had,
lot comes out of
I
your
just-
mouth, I've noticed repeatedly, and without breaking for breath. So have a breath. Let me
So-
bring Luke in.
He's such a condescending misogynist, eh? And misandrist. He hates men and women. Just hates everyone, you know? Just a little smug testicle at all times.
I feel like I've told you this, Piers. Deborah and I just recently had a conversation on my show. I definitely clarified this for her. No one, again, relevant, prominent Democrats in positions of power are saying Trump is Hitler. Stop with that. It's the whiniest thing. No one says that. If you think we
The
shouldn't
Madison
take
Square
note
Garden
of
thing was literally described as a neo-Nazi.
I also love what a baby is. Like, he can't stand someone speaking for more than like 10 seconds before he's like, I gotta interrupt. And then if you like dare to try and speak above him, he's like, oh my God.
Rally. A neo-Nazi rally.
When Trump's
It was full
own
of Jewish people.
general
There was a Holocaust
They were
survivor in the
voting
I
front
haven't
row.
called it that. I haven't called it that. Can I please finish the dang point? The point that I don't really care about the Mika Joe thing is just, yeah, sort of cringe, but much more important is that we keep going around this merry-go-round. Oh, they called him Hitler, now this, now that. I'm sure some random people on the internet say that, but again, that's not the line from Biden and Harris. That's not the line from
They
Trump's
called him a
own former
fascist.
administration officials. So can you please
They called him a
write
fascist.
Biden and
story
Harris don't
about
say
yes, a
something
fascist.
Democrats aren't-
So you that conform to their narrow worldview. They want to dictate how you lead your life, what
That
books
is
you
not the
read. Hang on,
definition of fascist.
don't all jump in. What books you read, what movies
It's just
you can
incorrect
watch.
and
Hang
factually
on.
incorrect what
Try
you're saying.
hard, Emma. Just take a little vow of silence for a few seconds, right? What heroes you're allowed to admire, what statues you can respect, what clothes you can wear, what songs you can listen to, blah, 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 blah. So you know who the actual purest personification of a modern day
The wokies. Honestly, I feel like, again, it sucks because I don't know if it's a failure of the education system or it's just like the general public hears buzzwords and then they're like, oh, wait, what? Hitler was bad. He was the bad guy. So fascism's bad, right? But not actually understanding what people mean when they talk about this kind of stuff. And then just to be like, fascism is when I don't get to say slurs. That's fascism. You take away my free speech, and now I don't have the ability to say the naughty words, and I can't. And so you're a fascist, and you want to take down statues. That the fascists did that, so that's fascist too. I was like, wait, sorry. So you're probably most likely referring to, I'm guessing, maybe slave owners or colonial genocidal freaks that had their statues torn down. That's a good thing, actually. You know, like none of this is fascism.
fascist is? A member of the woke brigade. 'Cause that's
That's totally right. I didn't pre-watch this. Fuck any of you who accused me of it. I couldn't have. This is one of those cases where I couldn't have pre-watched it. It was literally fucking released an hour into me streaming today.
exactly what the woke people do. They behave like fascists. And you may not want to hear it, but trust me, you do.
No, based
It's
on your false
fascism.
definition of
Focus,
fascism, you can.
Someone
Yes.
told a bad joke.
square
Cancel
that
him.
circle.
Destroy him.
That's not fascism. That's, oh God, my understanding of fucking the fascist dictatorships is no jokes allowed. That's what they were all about. You couldn't make a joke.
Fire him. It's fascism.
Yes. Fascism is
Fascism.
Yes,
apparently
yeah,
liberal college students being a
Yeah.
little bit too sensitive with their pronouns. It's not a highly militaristic,
We should get rid of all
nationalistic
pronouns.
political ideology
Get rid of
born
all
out
pronouns.
of Hitler
They're
and
all-
Get
Mussolini.
rid of them.
Yeah,
So,
you know why? Because the most
pronouns.
No, he, him.
You know.
I hope Democrats
why are you
go on with
watering
the
down
pronouns.
fascism?
But listen,
Piers?
listen.
Why are you watering down fascism, which
Fascist
resulted in
equals
the
woke.
mass
No, I'm calling you the
genocide of
fascist.
6 million
You're
Jews?
watering down
Calling you
fascism
the
by saying
fascist.
Donald
ethnic
Trump
groups,
is a
including
fascist. You've done that
LGBT+.
yourself.
I gotta do a
You
fascism and cover
never
everyone's
said
faces.
that.
ran a fascist
Okay,
campaign.
please don't.
Same
Please
way
I said you
they
ran a
say
fascist
all
God.
campaign.
Don't all
It
talk
remains
over
true.
it.
You,
I
the
did it.
left,
Can't
you
hear
guys
you.
are
I
the
did it.
ones that are watering down
But
what
Piers,
that
you
means.
set up this false premise. Piers, you set up a
What's
false
the false
premise and a
premise?
false definition that meets no academic standards of what fascism is. I just laid it out for you. Fascism is a highly militarized, nationalistic political ideology that often involves corporate power consolidating with the state. See Elon and Trump going together? That talks about a mythologized past that we need to return to by demonizing either political
Make America
opposition
great again.
Plus,
or
again,
specific
can I quickly
migrant
go?
groups. Exactly, but the specific immigrant.
How weird
groups,
you would describe that as
targeting
fascism.
the mass deportation is, you could describe it as
Well done, Emma. I'm actually shocked you were able to squeeze in just a couple points inside there in this absolute clusterfuck mess of a show. Because at the same time, it's like, this is definitely showing you one of the biggest problems behind all of this is that no one knows what the fuck they're talking about, including media figures, you know, like someone like P.Morgan, just an example of fucking, you know, someone who's clearly failed upward and is now in a position to have a TV show where he is the authority. He gets to dictate who talks, who's offensive, who's censored. He censors all the people he doesn't like, silences them, condescends to them, get as sexist as they can at any given point. But at the same time, when it comes to fascism, he's like, you're the fascist. Wokeism is fascism because joke can't say, and I want to make slur. And now you take that away from me, so fascism you. And you're just like, so you say a lot of words, but you don't know what they mean. And so, yeah, I understand that maybe the Democrats were just as guilty of this. They just thought, what's bad? Nazis. Okay, what don't we like? Nazis were fascists. All right, well then you're a fascist, and that's all they had to go on. And they were just like, don't vote for him, he's a fascist. And then as soon as he won, it's like, I congratulated the fascist, I shook the fascist hand, now I'm happy the fascist is coming into power. Well, yeah, no one takes you seriously then, because you don't know what the word meant, or you don't believe it to be true, or you don't think it's actually a bad thing that's worth actually condemning. So at that point in history, you're just like, and you walk away. And so in this case, yeah, P.Morgan doesn't know what the word means. His definition of fascism is wokeness, and I can't say slurs. That to me is fascism. And so, yeah, I can't take you seriously either. The only person on this entire panel who actually knew aspects of it and was capable of defining it when asked was Emma, which, educate yourselves. I think would probably be the lesson in all this. And yeah, boy, these things are profoundly hard to sit through.
Hey, if you'd like to unlock secret bonus episodes as well as uncensored content, go to patreon.com/The Serfs. This show is produced by Anna Loves Riley, Arian McCarthy, Cheryl Alvarez, Comrade Junkie, Doug Caddy, Everything Important, Hagbard Celine, Jimmy Sombrero, Multimondi, Omni, Political Puppy, Preston Kroll, Quiet 185, Riley and Anna, Roller Dragon, Cernicus, Stellar Gwyn, Sebastian Demel, Travis McClinton, Trincell, Words Greenwood. With additional support coming from all of these amazing human beings right here.